Hey, good afternoon and welcome to Radio Row here in Los Angeles, California. First interview of the long week of interviews that we have out here. And as you can see on the bottom of the screen, sponsored by Munganast St. Louis Acura, Trican Consulting, Western Illinois University, Kevin Miller, Caldwell Banker Gundaker, and Bootleggin Barbecue. And hey, this is a new thing this year. Our first guest is virtual. So I'm here in LA. And that is my guest. He is the former running back for the Green Bay Packers. And for Mizzou fans out there, I don't know if this hurts or not, but former Nebraska Cornhusker, he is Ahman Green. Ahman, how are you?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm good. Hey, I left 2 feet of snow in St. Louis to come out here for this. I don't know why you didn't do the same up in Green Bay.
Well, this is one of the reasons here. I got my granddaughter who I had to I've been taking care of for a week. So that is one of the main reasons why I'm not in Los Angeles right now. My wife's flight got delayed or canceled out of fun, so she couldn't come back. So I'm like, oh, I'm here with the baby. So on Papa duty, so I'm good with that. But yeah, that's the main reason I'm not out there with you in LA.
Ahman, when I saw that your name on the list, when they reached out to me and asked if I wanted to have you on, I needed to have you on for something that has been eating at me for about 18 years now. It's been going on for a while now. So this is back. We're talking back at like 2004, 2005, somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
I was playing Madden. And there was a guy in Madden for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Maybe you remember the running back, Ahman Green.
Yep.
Okay. He was good in Madden. He was really good in Madden. I liked playing with the Steelers, and in that year I had the first round pick in my fantasy league, and I selected you, and then I immediately went and I traded you for Ahman Green, and that was the year. You know what? I'm admitting this. It's like kind of like the curse of Babe Ruth. How the Red Sox, they let him walk away and then they were cursed for years. I have not won a fantasy football league with with my friends since I did that. It's the curse of Ahman Green. That's what it is.
I like to be put in the same sentence as Babe Ruth. I definitely like that. I grew up a baseball player along with football, basketball, and track. So I appreciate you, Joe, for that one. I know you're. I'm
admitting my mistake.
Yeah, right. I know the other fantasy owners don't let you live that down.
You know what? So again, this is like 2003, 2004. Was whenever you had a huge season with the Packers that year. And I texted a friend of mine last week, and I said, "Hey, man, I got Ahman Green on the show next week," and he immediately texted back, "Remember when you traded him for Ahman Green?"
I told you, I knew it. Oh man. Fantasy GMs don't forget. They don't forget.
I need to be absolved by you or something like. I feel like I need something like that to make this curse go away.
That's what we're gonna do. You got me here on the podcast now. So
yeah, that's what we need to work that out at some point. So at the end, I mean, you think it over, and we go from there. And now, I mean, so I'm going to transition straight into that to my Mizzou fans that are out there listening. Did you guys get away with a victory back in 1997 on the kicked ball?
Oh, definitely. I was just talking about this. So Eric Warfield, he was our strong safety on that defense, and he said so in the conversation we had yesterday morning, or no, 2 days ago, Saturday morning, he said on that game plan defensively that they had for them to stop them was built to stop one, I say, offensive scheme. But they came out in a whole different offensive scheme. That's what made it a problem for our Nebraska defense, Black Shirts, which were the number one defense in college football that year and the years before that. That's why it was so tough, because they came out in a whole different game plan they hadn't prepared for. And Charlie McBride usually had all the guys ready, and then the guys were very competitive and very go-getter type of attitude. So when they came out to that different option plays, passing off the option more than they were running, that's what threw them off. And so hearing that from my teammate from a game that happened 25 years ago, I was like, oh, now it made sense. Because I was like coming to the sideline. I remember coming to every time we scored, I'd be like, I'll go to the defense. I go to either Grant Wistrom or Jason, Peter, or even Eric, or I'm like, guys, they can't stop us from scoring. Just keep them from scoring, and we're going to win. Just do that. Just stop them. And they're like, okay, Ahman, we got it. But every time I'm like, again? They scored again. Like, oh man.
And what 45-38? I mean,
Right.
that is just nonstop action
It was.
in a game like that. And for you to have just vivid memories of that 25 years ago, and you're still able to remember stuff like that. Here in St. Louis, Grant Winstrom, a huge favorite. What kind of
Right.
character was he like back in college?
Oh, he was a character of all characters. Like, okay, this is a guy that obviously phenomenal athlete. Like I seen Grant Winstrom do things that I didn't think a big guy could do. But he's not really built like a big guy. He was like lean and tall. And so I saw him run down people. I'm like, oh my God, this dude is a freak of nature athlete. But then being that his roomies were Jason and Christian Peter. So I heard stories of them destroying their apartment or the house they lived in because they swore to God they should have been the next best thing in WWF or WWE or whatever was going on at that time in the mid 90s. I said, bro, you're college football players. You're not going to be a wrestler. Not saying you can't, but you're playing here. Oh, AG, we did this, da 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 da. And they're like, you got problems, man. You got really real problems. I love you. I'm like, but you're in college football. Get those dreams out your head. I mean, and it's not real anyway. He's like, I know that. That's the fun part. We could act like this. I'm like, see, you lost me there. I said, because when I was 13 and my dad told me that it was an act, I was like, oh, you telling me WWF is fake? He's like, yes, they're just acting, kid. I'm like, I took all my Hulk Hogan posters down. I was like, this is not, I'm like, I'm a purist. I found out as a kid, I'm the true purist of things. I was like, when I found out I was an act, I'm like, oh, it's like just a movie. It's just like a movie. That's what my dad said. I'm like, oh,
see, I have
I was like, what?
I have an 8-year-old, and just last week, the Royal Rumble was in St. Louis. So just last week, I took him to the Royal Rumble, and we were moving around a bit throughout the show, but like the final match, we're down there on the floor for that, and we're watching it. Baron Corbin, one of the guys, he walks by us right there on the floor, and he's all hurt, and he's all, hunkered over, and like as soon as he passes by us, he goes through the curtain, and you just see him walking all fine and everything, and my kid's like, wait, isn't he hurt? And I'm like, no, he's not. Like, he's at, and you can just see it in his face. He's like, wait, this isn't an act? And I was like, for as much as you and I wrestle and you don't get hurt every single time, like, you haven't picked up from that? Like,
that's funny. Yeah, I was like, Dad, why y'all lie to us? Why? I was like, why do adults lie to kids so much? He was like, what else? I was like, remember last year when I told you that I figured out Santa's not real? Whereas you and mom buying the toy, I was like, we live in Los Angeles, California. We don't have a chimney. We live in the hood. Santa Claus is not coming to the hood, okay? And we don't have a chimney for him to come down. So where is he going to get the president? That's how I figured that out. And so then next year was WWF. I was like, oh, come on, Dad. Y'all killing me. I'm like, Dad, why y'all got to lie to us kids? We going to believe almost anything, but not me. Not me anymore. I was watching. I got my eyes. I was like this to my dad. I was like this.
The story, I mean, the Grant Winstrom stuff, like he might have been just about 10, 15 years too early on that, because you look now how many guys are going from there, like from playing college football to doing that. And it's probably a little easier on their bodies and for the short term.
I say for the short term, yes. I know they get beat up a little bit. I know a few wrestlers. I met a couple of women wrestlers and some of the guy wrestlers. And yeah, they still get beat up a little bit. Some of them moves especially when they jumping off stuff.
Oh yeah,
it's just gravity and momentum. That obviously science takes over. Eventually, you're going to get hurt. But for the most part, right? That's why they get in shape. So that's why we, for the wrestlers I met, that's why we work out. So when we land on the ground, we're getting more in shape to prepare for not getting hurt than getting hurt. So I'm like, yeah, I respect that. I just know loud that it's not real. That's all. That's what.
Nowadays in the NFL, having one feature back is so uncommon. I mean, it's a lot of by running back by committee. But when you were there in Green Bay, I mean, it was just it was you. You were the show then. I mean, how do you? And then same thing in Nebraska. I mean, everybody knows those Nebraska teams back in the day. They just ran. So how do you? How do you get your body to just get used to getting hit like that and staying out there as many games as you played?
One is mentally get your mind right. Basically telling yourself, I remember before, even when I got back to Green Bay, it started in high school. And then once I got to Green Bay, I just started telling myself before every like regular season game and preseason and even practice, like, look, this is football. It's a contact sport. Get over it. That's what I would tell myself. And I'm like, okay, boom. I know I'm going to get hit probably 90% of the time while I'm running around. I mean, I used to get hip checked by D linemen on a play action, even though I didn't have the ball. They just like, boom, there you go, take that with you. I don't even have the ball. They were like, "Hey, G, don't worry about it." I'm like, I said, I got you. Okay, I'll get you next play. But yeah, it's physical. And you just gotta like it starts with your mind, and then after that, it's just the off-season conditioning, taking care of your body, recovering, but then hitting the weights, running hills, working on your endurance. It's a combination of all that stuff. So then year over year, I can refresh and then basically recalibrate and then be ready to go because I understood how the run game worked with the offensive pass game. And so they complement each other. If you don't have a run game, sometimes your pass game is hard to establish and vice versa. That is not that you can establish it, but sometimes it could be a little bit harder if you don't have somebody, deacon and dunking underneath with the run game, getting 3 yards in a cloud of dust, doing the hard work, which I didn't mind. I don't mind doing that grind, getting in there, banging down with the O lineman and D lineman. Yeah, baby, I might have to check, but I don't mind. I didn't mind doing that stuff. And so having that mental mindset of, okay, I got to work, I got to grind. I'm going to get punched in the chest by a D lineman or a linebacker is going to catch me here and there. You just got to be okay with that. And then that's where mentally, once your mind, it's basically the old cliche. Once your mind's, you get it past your mind. If you don't mind, it don't matter. That's pretty much it.
But when you have a quarterback too, like Brett Favre, who's never missing a game, never missing a play, no matter what the injuries are too, does that make it harder for you to complain about any kind of injuries you have?
For me, no. I know other players on the team, yes. They would be like, dog, it's hard to complain. When I got this dude, he got a broke thumb. He got a toe that's not even working. He shouldn't even be walking and he's throwing balls still. So it can't, yeah, exactly. So for me, it was like, okay. I was like, well, I know I can't say I'm hurt. Let me just play with what I got. If I had like today, I know between football and basketball, the most common injury I hear so far is a high ankle sprain. I'm like, I know I played with plenty of high ankle sprains. What's wrong with you guys? Like, come on. I mean, I know it's a different type of player. I know. I'm like, but a high ankle sprain sucks.
Yeah.
It pretty much hurts from your right below your calf all the way down to the bottom of your foot. I know I played with that. In college, I know I did it. Against Colorado, I had twisted my ankle against Kansas State the week before. And my ankle, when I twisted it and it was just a sprain, a very bad sprain that was black and blue. And I played the following week. And so I'm like, high ankle sprain? I'm like, come on, guys. You just put some tape on that thing. Let it ride. You'll be good.
Do you still watch your Cornhuskers every Saturday?
Oh, yeah. I'm die hard. I ride or die. I got a tattoo. My bulldog right here has a Nebraska jersey on there. I'm ride or die. I'm supporting the guys, good or bad. And I've been through since we got in the Big Ten. I hear it from my friends that are Badgers that either went there, played there. Oh, I hear it, but I take it because I knew eventually it's going to change. Time change, games change, teams change. Games, like forever, the Cubbies trying to get to the World Series, then finally did it in 2016, that stuff, it changes. So eventually it's going to get back to where it was, but it's just going to take just as much time to get it back there with Scott and the new coaching staff that he's bringing in a few new guys to build down there in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Yeah, and I mean, just to, when you're sitting there watching it, you had all those rivalries. You mentioned Colorado. We talked Mizzou. You talk about all the Big 12 teams or the Big 8 teams when you started there, and now it's a completely different set. So you're watching it, and you don't have. Is it hard to get into it, not having those same rivalries of when you played, when you seeing the other teams that you played against?
Yeah, it's a little hard. I say it's interesting not seeing how intense. Well, it was actually this last year's game was the Red River rivalry, the Texas-Oklahoma game. That was actually a intense game, a lot of scoring. But for Nebraska, Colorado game, the Oklahoma game, Nebraska-Oklahoma, even though it was back this year, sometimes just seeing the competitiveness. I know they had that. That's the one thing that was different with the Huskers this year. They were competitive for a 4-quarter game. They weren't just competitive in the first half or up to the third quarter. It was 4 quarters and probably about 7 of their games were lost between 3 and 6 points. So that told me as a player, and I coach now, in terms of esports, and I coach football, high school football for about 10 years, along with track and baseball. That showed me effort. When the team is only losing by a certain margin, that means they're making the little mistakes at the wrong times. So you just got to hone down, take those mistakes away, and that's the coach letting the players know, okay, at this moment we can't do this. At this time in the game, we cannot have a turnover. We got to get in field goal range. So everybody's got to be aware of, one, hold on to the ball, and two, get the ball to the referee or get it out of bounds. So you got to have those type of coaching moments to say, hey, this is what we need to know in a situation to make sure we can help ourselves get the win.
What ages are you coaching?
Well, right now with esports, I'm coaching college. So we're at Lakeland University, Muskies. We have Overwatch team, League of Legends, Rocket League, Super Smash, and NBA 2K players. And so there's Division 3 college esports. And esports, it doesn't matter division. It's all the way from D1 all the way down to junior college that we play against schools. So we played against Lincoln, Nebraska. I played against the Badgers in Call of Duty and got our butts kicked. So it is what it is. But it's fun. That's what I'm doing. Like I said, before that, I was coaching high school football. A lot of playoff teams, good teams I was able to be on the coaching staff of here in Wisconsin.
How'd you so obviously this isn't something that just popped up. I mean, video games, that's something you've probably been doing most of your life then. How did you balance that to do that and also be a pro athlete, get into, how did that balance work?
It worked during my career because I did it for my downtime. So when we had a day off or obviously the off season, that's when I got heavy into gaming. And my favorite game was Halo, and it still is because they have a new one that just came out not too long ago. But I use video games as my getaway from the season, from a tough loss, or just what, I got all Saturday. I don't have nothing to do. You know what? I'm gonna finish it. I'm gonna beat this. See if I can finish this game all in one day. An RPG, Hitman 3 or Hitman 2 that I played a lot, or Grand Theft Auto. That was one of my playing days. And now, before I got to have this job at Lakeland in Sheboygan, it was just me going to the cons, going to Comic-Con, going to E3, going to DreamHack, going to PAX, and going to tournaments, going to a Halo. Actually, I went to a Halo tournament right there in St. Louis. That was there February.
Was that at Chaffetz? At Chaffetz or at St. Charles?
Might have been St. Charles, whatever, somewhere close to the border of Illinois and Missouri.
Oh, that might have been the conventions. I have to look into because I know there were a few around here.
Yeah, it was the Halo Classic. It was January of 2019, and I met a whole bunch of cool people there. People that were like looking at me like, "Why is Ahman Green here?" Guys, they're just, you're Ahman Green. Why are you at a Halo tournament in St. Louis? I'm like, because I'm a Halo fan. I played and I love the game. And they was like, oh, okay, nice. It's dope that you're here though. Thanks for being here. I'm like, yeah, no problem. So yeah, it was that's how. So I just I grew my passion. It was already there, but I say my knowledge and obviously, and then meeting people, networking. And I created a business card to start handing that out to different people from different companies that were either gaming companies or organizers of tournaments or developers, people that worked at Sony, people that worked at Microsoft, EA, who actually an EA I already knew because I've been at a lot of their events. So I always kept in contact with somebody there. So then when I finally met Clint Oldenburg, who is the executive producer of Madden, me and him, we clicked right away because he's a former college football player too. He played in NFL. I know he played for Cleveland. He played for a few teams. Might have been the Broncos. I know for sure the Cleveland Browns, and he played college football at Boston College. So we had that connection, and so I was already doing a lot of stuff for EA, but then started doing stuff with Microsoft and I'm trying to think. Is a company called a fundraising company called Pros versus GI Joes. Greg Zion. So he was doing fundraisers for military, for troops, and NFL, baseball, basketball players. So he would take, former player, current player, go to a facility and play video games with fans families were connected to the military to come hang out for the day. So making those connections, meeting guys like Greg, meeting guys like Larry Ridley, who does a lot of commentation on his own, meeting the upper management of EA, and then meeting people at DreamHack, guy like Gary Briggs, who's kind of like the the person that knows everyone in the world of gaming, and he organized DreamHack. He was actually one of the inventors and creators of the first official DreamHack here in America, because the idea was already in Europe, and DreamHack was going on there for forever, and then they finally brought it over here, and that's why we have DreamHack all over the United States. So meeting guys like that, getting in position for whatever may come, be ready for me in the future, and eventually it came to my door, saying one of my friends that actually went to Lakeland was a teacher there and a student. And he said, Mom, I got the perfect job opportunity for you. I said, okay, you know me well. It's either football or video games. And he said both. I said, really? He said, yeah, they're thinking about, they want to see if you want to coach football and coach esports. And I'm like, well, let me think about it. I said, because coaching esports is a lot more, a lot more to it than people think. I was like, they probably said both because they didn't know that how serious and just as detailed and into it you got to be for esports, just as football and baseball and basketball and wrestling at the college level or the high school level or even the pro level. It's a full commitment. So I'm, having meetings. We're having two-a-days. We're doing film review. We're talking about our strategy in the game, if it's Call of Duty, if it's Halo, if it's Overwatch, if it's League of Legends, stuff like that. So we're actually having breakdown meetings, and I'm picking players. I'm recruiting players just as I was being recruited as a football player when I was in high school. But now I'm recruiting esports players, student athletes. So it's been, a great adventure. I love it. It's fun to do, and it's part of one of my passions, basically.
Oh, it's because of video games that I will forever be linked to you amongst my friends. 18 years now and running.
It's going to change now. It's going to change.
I hope so. I hope this is what it is. If there's anything, if I can name my team after you or something like that next year to try to break the streak of this, we'll do whatever it takes to make sure that this that we can end the 18-year streak the curse that has been haunting me for so long. But we'll make it work. Hey, you have a podcast, the host you're the host of On My Block Packers podcast on the Believe Podcast Network. So you're putting stuff out there, and I would imagine, are you talking esports there? Are you talking everything, or are you just thinking Packers?
So that with Mike is On My Block. That's what Mike Wall, one of my teammates, he was a guard for us, and that's just strictly football. Mm-hmm. And it's during the season it's all Packers mostly. Then we cover a little bit of around the NFL topics, injuries, quarterback changes or whatever, coach changes. But now in the off season, we're going to start talking about more of the free agency coming up real soon. But right now, this is Super Bowl week, and also coach hirings and firings, and then obviously the big deal with Brian Flores and his case suing the NFL. And we broke it a little bit that we talk about that on today's podcast. But then actually on Wednesday, I do my gaming podcast called Ahman Green's Gamers Lounge podcast, where that one, obviously just in the title, talking about video games. We're talking about game releases coming out. We're talking about topics in the industry, like I think last week it was the big thing. 2 weeks ago, Activision was bought by Microsoft. Last week, Bungie was bought by Sony, or vice versa. And now this week we got Google dropping Stadia, the video game app where you could go in and play video games and with your cell phone or in the cloud. And now they're actually downsizing the Stadia app to almost saying, okay, now we're done with it. We're not making money no more. So we don't push it over here. So we talk about, important topics, fun topics, the fun stuff. We talk about what everybody's watching on different streams, Hulu, Netflix, Disney Plus, Paramount Plus. What else plus? Any other app that has a TV series or movie, being produced. We talk about and give recommendations for those apps. And so there's some fun stuff coming out. It's always something good to watch. So it's hard to try to keep up with it. I say if you try to keep up with it, you're not gonna win. So just watch what you can when you can, and we'll give you some recommendations on the good stuff. We usually direct people to good TV shows and good movies in the podcast. So because we don't want people to be like, man, what is Ahman Green talking about? Man, this movie sucked, or this TV show is terrible. So yeah, I want to give them the good stuff. I don't want to give them something they got to think about, and they come back to the show be like, Ahman, that was a bad pick. So I don't want that. I don't want to hear that from my viewers. So Yeah, we do that every Wednesday. We record every Wednesday at 11 a.m. and it's actually live on Twitch, on my Twitch channel, Ahman Green TV, and also stream as well.
Sounds like you are a busy man, and I see too. Is that Black Panther behind you, or is that?
Yes.
And I see the Batman logo behind you too. So,
yeah, that's
which
Black
one
Panther.
Though?
That's Black Panther.
Okay, Marvel or DC though.
Well, I'm gonna say I'm originally nostalgic wise. Being a kid, I was DC because I was Batman first. Then once I obviously grew up, started reading books and learning that obviously there's Marvel and DC, I'm like a guy of both worlds because Black Panther is my guy right here in for Marvel, and Batman is my guy in DC, and they're similar, you know. But I say Black Panther has more of the orb, the flower that he drinks to get his strength, so that gives him a notch up over Bruce Wayne, because Bruce Wayne just going off of pure grit and lifting weights in the weight room and grinding it out in the Batcave. So he got back. So T'Challa has a little bit more oomph. He's a little bit more superhuman than Bruce Wayne, but Bruce Wayne still kicks butt though. You know, he can make it happen.
That one, I'm very, I am very intrigued to see what the new Batman movie is going to be. It looks very dark right now, but it's PG-13, so I don't know if that's just the previews or I know.
Right.
But and then you have the Wakanda Forever coming out too. That I don't think maybe I've just avoided all spoilers. Not really sure what they plan on doing with the future of that franchise.
They haven't really showed much. They talk. No. It's a lot of talking. You go to Screen Rant, you know, the movie feedback websites or user stuff, YouTube too. But the only really thing I know about Wakanda Forever is that Winston Duke, who was the other tribal leader in the movie, and he challenged. Remember, he was the first one to challenge T'Challa to be the next Black Panther and be king of Wakanda. So they're considering him in some like fan conversations, you know, oh, this would be a good fix if they bring, you know, somebody that's already been introduced to the MCU, and it makes sense because he was also a part of the tribes that were made up Wakanda, stuff like that. So that's kind of the fan point of view of it. But yeah, it's going to be, for us as fans, being DC or Marvel, it doesn't matter. We're having fun. We're enjoying the entertainment. That's what I'm looking at. Like, we debate. I got my friends and we talk about, you know, when we get into our comic book talk, people are mad and upset why this came out, why they do it like this. And then I'm like, look, regardless how good they did it or how bad they didn't, you know, they did it, we get to enjoy good media, good entertainment at the end of the day. So I don't care if that Storm had blonde hair to silver hair. I don't care. The movie was great, you know, or you know, Black Panther did this instead of that. I'm like, no, it was a great movie. Something that we finally seen that was in the comic book war, but now it's on the big screen. So it's fantastic.
I was not expecting this conversation to go so many different directions, but I thoroughly enjoyed the last half hour that we've spent talking about everything. That's Ahman Green. That your Twitter handle there in the right there, so where we can follow you and follow everything that you are up to these days. Best of luck, man, and thank you so much for all the time.
Hey, thank you, Joe. And that's on Twitter and Instagram. You could use that tag right there. So continuity, so you can find me. So there you go. So
he is Ahman Green. If you missed any of that, it'll be up. Audio version will be up on the podcast sites, and all the video will be up on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, everywhere. You follow all of our stuff for ClaibsOnline.com. Plenty of content still to come all week long here on Radio Row in Los Angeles.
At Western Illinois University, limits are meant to be pushed. Because the best change happens when people think in new and unexpected ways. At WIU, you'll experience a world where your presence matters, where your ideas take flight, and your determination opens the door to possibility. At WIU, we create a world that's brand new.